comment reads, wondering about circles of elite shareholder, board members, CEOs, and their mitigations unavailable to common folk. First, let's look at the baseline disparities before we even consider the additive measures they've put in place. How their very way of life puts them less at risk. Very large, airy mansions, huge homes, better airflow, definitely not a crowding issue. When traveling, rarely will they have to utilize public transportation. They have their own private planes or their own personal drivers, slumming it in coach or on the city bus. They have healthcare. And better healthcare than any of us can get our hands on. If they are hospitalized, they'll get those private suites. But even as a baseline, they have the ability to consume healthy foods. They don't have to consider what they'll go without if they purchase the bag of Cara oranges. And even if they do live in a food desert, they have staff, individuals that will go and get those groceries for them. So it's a non-stress issue, which creates a far superior baseline health status. And that's just a starting point level of disparity, with a few things I could think of off the top of my head quickly. When considering the additive measures for the prevention of transmitting infectious diseases, we can look at what happened with Davos, where clearly attention was paid to this topic. They have the ability to test far more frequently and require staff members to do so before meetings. Better air filtration using HEPA purifiers. Better ventilation using higher capacity exhaust fans. Far UV light systems to disinfect the air. Highly modernized CO2 detectors. And I'm sure to an extent there's the utilization of specific mouthwashes, nasal sprays. These people have connections and don't get told no often. And nobody could convince me otherwise that these people don't have access to things that the public does not. For example, researchers at Washington University in St. Louis published their findings in Nature in July of 2023 about a new air monitor that detects the virus in the air in real time. This pathogen air quality monitor used wet cycloned air samples that it took from the environment. It had a sensitivity of 77 to 83% with a limit of detection at 7 to 35 viral RNA copies, and had a 5-minute resolution time. So you mean tell me that they're not saying, hey, build me another one of those and I'll give you $1 million, or I'll fund your school, or whatever. When money isn't an option, God, they probably have their own wastewater detection systems that are set up in home and office private use. We can't even begin to think of the things that they have access to that we do not. Which is why they can be confident in showing their maskless faces. People were discussing why Davos didn't post information this year really about what they were doing for the prevention. Because for many of them, they have moved past it. I've said it before and I'll say it again. They have the tools. And even if by chance, after utilizing all of that, they still did manage to get infected, one, they have all of the treatments at their disposal. And two, they're certainly not going to post about the adverse health events that are going on with them. For crying out loud, I don't know how many of you guys were aware, but on New Year's Day, our Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin was hospitalized and didn't tell anybody. Apparently it was a complication of cancer, but the Biden administration and literally the second in command was not even aware that he was in the hospital. And people don't think this is a national security issue. But I digress. That's not the topic here. So all of these things, whether deliberate actions or privilege in their circumstances, which allows them to move past it. This creates the illusion that everything's fine and people fall for it. It's in the exact same way that people live outside their means because of comparing themselves to social media influencers, where they put themselves in debt to keep up with that illusion. Except this time it is our literal lives and retaining functional use of our body.